Hey everybody, welcome back to the wood shop. Well, we're still working on our shop organization and storage series, and we've gotten quite a bit done so far over here in the corner. Take a walk with me, we'll check it out. As you can see, we turned this back wall into just a big pegboard wall. We also put some shelves up on this wall over here, and we built this really big cabinet that has double doors on one side and three really big drawers on the other. Now that brings me to today's video, which is about clamp racks. I'm going to put a rack over here probably for some F-style bar clamps. On this wall I'll probably make a rack for the bigger parallel clamps, and I'm also going to figure out how to make some kind of a hanger for the squeeze clamps. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, I've got some plywood here that was left over from building that cabinet in the corner. I'm going to start out by building the bar clamp rack first. Now the whole rack is going to be 30 inches wide, and the shelf part that sticks out from the wall will be 5 inches wide, and the backboard that mounts against the wall will be 4 inches wide. So let's go ahead and rip a 5-inch and 4-inch strip out of this plywood. Alright, you can see our widths are now ripped for these boards, and this thing is going to fit together roughly something like this. What we have to do now is cut the lengths. These are still the full 48-inch plywood length. So the backboard, we're going to cut it at the full 30 inches that we wanted. And the shelf board is going to have to be 1.5 inches shorter than that because there will be side supports. So we're going to go for 28.5 on that. And we will be able to cut those side supports out of the excess we have on this because we will have an extra 18 inches. Now, since these side supports are going to be sticking straight out from the wall like this, I am going to miter off the corners of these at 45 degrees. That way, if you accidentally bump into one with your elbow or your shoulder or your head, it won't cause you that much trouble. Well, since I forgot to push the record button, you'll just have to pretend that you saw me cut off these corners. We'll go ahead and do a rough construction here. Show you what it's going to look like. The shelf board is going to go in the center just like that. And the side supports want to go on each end just like that, and you'll come out with something that looks pretty much like that. Now the next thing I have to do is go ahead and mark where all the slots need to be cut for the clamps. The bars on each clamp is 1/4 inch wide. The feet are 3/4 inch wide, so that's how much berth it's going to need around it at the top. So I'm going to have to do the math, try to mark out all these spots where the slots need to be cut. Then we're going to cut them out with the table saw. Alright, I've got these slots marked out at 1 1/8 inches apart to the center. I'm going to use the table saw to cut these out. It'll take about 2 blade widths to get the 1/4 inch width that I need. Alright, you'll notice I've got the blade cranked up as high as it will go here on the table saw. Now the reason for that is the arc of the blade. You know, a table saw blade is not straight, but the higher you can get it up there, the straighter the inside of that cut will be. now all of our slots are cut, and I'm going to go ahead and attach the side supports. First I'll pilot hole and countersink them, and I'll attach them with screws. Now the next thing we have to do is attach what we've got put together so far to the backboard. Now before I can do that, I'm going to go through here and mark right where I want these screws to go. That way we make sure we get the screws into one of these fingers and not into one of the slots. Now all that's left to do is to pilot hole and screw these side supports to the back, and this rack is done. Well, there you go, one of our clamp racks is complete. This is the one for the smaller F-style bar clamps, and they hang in there just like that. And this will hold 25. So we'll have plenty of room to get more clamps as we need them. We don't have 25 at this moment. Now it's time to move on to the next clamp rack I'm going to make. This will be for the bigger and heavier parallel clamps. This rack's going to be a little bit bulkier and a lot sturdier than this one because it has to hold up quite a bit of weight. I'm going to make this one to where it will hold 6 of those big parallel clamps, and they weigh a lot of times, mostly if it's a 2-foot clamp, it'll weigh about 10 pounds probably, and if it's longer it'll weigh even more. So I need this rack to be able to hold at least 60 pounds. So I'm going to have to build it just a little bit sturdier than this one. So the backboard on it will be 8 inches tall. The shelf board will be about 9 inches wide. The side supports will be, of course, 8 by 9. And then I'm going to put at least 2, maybe 3 supports under the shelf to just give it a little bit more stability. With the shelf on there, those should be 9 by 3 and 5/8, I'm pretty sure. And this time I'm going to assemble it with pocket hole screws. So I'll go ahead and grab me some plywood, and I'll rip off 2 strips that are 8 and 9 inches wide to start. Alright, now we need to cut our pieces of plywood to length. The backboard, which is 8 inches wide, we're going to have to cut that to 30 inches long. The shelf board that's 9 inches wide, we need that to be 26 inches long. We also need 2 side supports that will be 8 by 9, and the bottom supports that will be 9 by 3 and 5/8. Alright, we have everything cut to length now, and you saw me go ahead and dog ear off everything that might be hazardous. That way you don't get cut or hurt on it in any way. I've got the shelf board already marked out here. You can see the clamps start from 3 inches from each end to the center of the first clamp, and then 4 inches apart after that to the center. We're going to go ahead and cut this the same way we did the other shelf with the table saw. The only difference is I've got to remove a 1/2 inch of material on each slot instead of a 1/4 like last time. Well, I guess you can tell by what's sitting in front of me what's getting ready to happen. I got to drill pocket holes so I can put this together with pocket hole screws. I'm going to start by drilling some in each end of the shelf. That way I can screw the shelf to the corner supports. I'll have to drill holes in the back side of the corner supports. That way I can mount them to the backboard. There will also have to be holes drilled in these supports that go under the shelf in the back side and the top side of them. And also we need holes in the back side of the shelf. That way we can mount it to the backboard. I'll probably do some on top and some on the bottom. It don't matter if you can see them because this is shop furniture anyway. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, it's time to start putting this thing together. I'm going to start out by attaching the side supports. After that, I'll put on the supports that go under the shelf, and then we'll set it on top of the backboard and screw it all down. You can see we have 2 of our clamp racks Now finished. We got the one for the big parallel clamps and the one for the smaller F-style bar clamps. And I am going to make one more, and I don't know if you would call this a rack or not, maybe a hanger, but all it's going to require is one piece of plywood that's 3 inches by 4 inches and a piece of dowel that's 18 inches long. So, first thing I need to do is go on over to the miter saw and cut off a piece of this plywood. Alright, the next thing I need to do is drill a hole all the way through this, the same size as this dowel, which in this case is 5/16 of an inch. You can use whatever size dowel you want. Now I'm going to drill this hole 1.5 inches up from the dog-eared side. And directly in the center the other direction, which is also 1.5 inches. Now I'm going to be hanging this on the underside of a shelf, so I've decided to do that with pocket hole screws. Now I'll go ahead and drill those holes now. Now the last thing I have to do is drive this dowel through the hole I've drilled till it reaches halfway, and this one will be done. And now comes my least favorite part of this whole project. That is hanging these on the wall. I've already got the spots picked out. All I have to do now is measure and drill the pilot holes, and we'll hang them up. Alright, our shop storage and organization series is coming right along. We've got our pegboard wall. We've got some shelves hanging on the wall here. They still need a little organized. They're a little bit cluttered. We've got this big cabinet that we built here. And now we have clamp racks. And off to my left over here, you've probably seen some of it in some of these scenes. I tried to hide it, but you probably saw some of it anyway. There's a closet right here that really needs organized and straightening up. I'll probably go in there and do some work, maybe build some shelves and stuff in there too. And I'm still planning on building some drawers in the benches and stuff in the shop here, because the more storage, the better. You can't get enough. If you've not watched the videos yet on this big cabinet or the peg wall or anything we've done so far, please go back and watch those now if you don't mind. I want to thank you for watching this video in this series. please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel and stay up to date on all of our content. And until next time, happy woodworking.